let's take it from
once again.
Yeah, let's take it from the top. A little bit of tech issues at the start. So guys, thanks for joining us. Last webinar this year. This time we'll tell you a bit more about header bidding. And why header bidding? Because we think that there is still much to talk about, and many options to improve this part of publishers at setup. Although the publishers tend to think that they know all about header bidding and they have everything under control. We respectfully disagree, because we see how many things are changing still after some years that header bidding is with us, at least 5 years. And to help me with it today, because I'm not a header bidding expert, I want to invite you to another header bidding, another header bidding phase, but another Yieldbird friendly phase, Greg Kobiakiewicz, who is our head of technology. Greg is with us for over 5 years now in Yieldbird. And Greg, you said it already, but the guys haven't heard you. How many header bidding setups for publishers you created through those 5 years?
Couple, like 40 or a couple hundreds, something like that. At least 40 versions, because header bidding has changed so much for the years. So we gone through all the versions before the zero version, before the first version. So it was a lot.
Sure. So, and yeah, you were here through all those times when we were expecting header bidding to die because of first price auction and unified pricing rules.
Yeah.
We were here when the header bidding video was starting, or like server to server was starting. So many things have changed, and to tell you all about it today, we will take you through this specific agenda, where we start with like very brief genesis of the header bidding and all those basics. So stay with us, because we will try to rush through it to not bore you to death. But considering that we know that there are some still people who are really new to the technology, we want to also give them a chance to level on the idea and the basics. And then we will go to the interesting details and those like meaty pieces about header bidding. So the benefits of each type of header bidding, pros and cons of open bidding and Amazon, which is really on the rise, and we'll show you some interesting numbers today. And we will go over 10 most important tips and tricks for the header bidding optimization and maintenance. If we will still have some time, we will answer any questions that you can ask through the Q&A feature. And if not, we will answer them after the call and give you the answers along with the recording for this webinar. And then we'll finish with a quick recap and let you go back to your tasks or to your families if you're finishing your day. So basically, short introduction about Yieldbird. Just as formality, we are on the market since 2008, so over 10 years now. We started as a daily, so a widget which was allowing advertisers to buy ads on small websites, even like small shop owners, florists, to buy some small number of ads on the websites that they would like to be visible at. And we grew to be one of the biggest ad optimization companies in the world, one of the GCPPs. We grew like 500% now in terms of our yearly turnover, and we work with over 300 publishers in more than 40 countries. We run over 60 billion ad requests a month through our tools. So yeah, this is us in terms of scale, in terms of our achievements. As I said, GCPP, one of the 50 fastest growing companies in Central and Eastern Europe, according to Deloitte, 2 years in a row. Some of the drum awards for AdOps excellence and for our sell-side innovation excellence. We are part of IAB Europe and INMA because we want to be really close to publishers. We are a part of really big publishing group in Poland, so we are publisher by a DNA. And yeah, this is it. I already introduced Greg. You will get this presentation as a PDF. You will get this recording, so I will not be reading all the descriptions about Greg's awards, experience, and that he likes to ride. Is it the proper word? The skateboard?
To skate, just
Yeah, so that he likes to skate. What you can tell by the California cap he's wearing. And yeah, by the way, we haven't agreed on wearing same color of the top today, pure accident. And me, you know very well, I'm head of growth. I'm responsible for Yogurt, new business and marketing activities. So yeah, let's dig in. Genesis of header bidding. Greg, simple question. The date of when you first heard about header bidding. Year.
It was like probably 16, maybe 15, right after I came to Uber and start my journey with programmatic. It was one of the first thing that, you know, guys from Uber said, you know, you have to look at this. This is something like a future. Not very widespread, but seems like interesting. You know, take it on the table and, you know, share your thoughts. Do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm asking because, you know, guys, where did it come from? When did it appear for the first time? When I was asking a lot of not only employees of Yieldbird, by the way, we are sitting in the office, so we are like those freaks not sitting at home now with cats and kids and everything. So when I was asking over Hangouts or over Messenger, which is down apparently, and it's like a big mess today over it. When header bidding started, when they first heard about it, they all said something like 215, 214, something like that. Apparently, when I started digging into who claims to be the founder of header bidding when it started, the most solid claims, backed by, for example, guys like Ari Paparo from Bizwax, are coming from AppNexus, and to be specific, Brian O'Kelly, who is one of the co-founders of AppNexus, and they claim to invent the header bidding back in 2009. So already now
maybe it was
11 years.
Maybe it was pre-bid, maybe it was, you know, I heard the OpenX said that was their invention, but you know.
Yeah, so there are a lot of claimers of this invention. Yeah, so O'Kelly says they invented it in 2009 when it was actually called pre-bid. And according to them, there was basically it was a response for double-click introduction of the dynamic allocation.
Yeah.
And considering that the other SSPs felt left out, they couldn't compete with the direct campaigns. They were just able to take whatever direct campaigns and AdX didn't want to monetize. They tried to do some kind of hack, and they did basically. So the header bidding as a genesis, as an idea, was a way to give other SSPs, so the SSPs and the demand not related to Google in terms of like programmatic or whatever runs through your ad server, and now gone in the past for the dinosaurs, DFP. We still use the name, by the way. And yeah, it was basically a way to create a bit of auction pressure, right? To push Google to pay more for impressions and to give a chance for the other SSPs to compete at the same time, to buy some of the best impressions, if they, of course, are willing to bid high enough for those impressions. So yeah, it was a big thing when I came into Yieldbird 2017 in Central and Eastern Europe and Asia. A lot of publishers, even the big ones, haven't heard about header bidding, and they were like maybe not skeptical about it, but they weren't that hype. Of course, US, UK, all the Western countries, they already had it. They were advanced in it, and it was nothing new. That's why I started digging and thinking that it had to happen earlier than 2015. Yeah, so a part of that, a part of this genesis for you, Greg, header bidding. What was the coolest about it, and what made you go for it and dig into it and start to use it?
The first, you know, the major game changer for me was the way and the ability for the header bidding to compete with DFP's dynamic allocation. You know, how they organize all the key values and line items, and how to compete with DFP with those bids was like a game changer for me. It was at the very beginning of Prebid.js. So of course the Prebid.js as itself, the open source Prebid.js code and the wrapper code was unified code was a game changer, but you know the beauty of the mechanism of competing with TFP was absolutely gorgeous for me as a tech freak and programmer. It was game changer.
Yeah, and it was also visible on the revenue level, right? Because you
you
saw that Google React when it was pushed.
Then
they bid more, and you saw that the inventory fill rate increased as well. So it was a no-brainer to start it. And I also remembered that in the past there was like, you know, this approach to use asynchronous header bidding or synchronous header bidding, right? And this latency issue, that was always the biggest scare for publishers. Should we use header bidding because it will slow our page and the users will escape and everything? So
it slow the page, will slow the ads, or I don't know, slow everything. So yeah, but you know, it's constant. You know, it's all the same.
Sure.
Right now,
every solution comes with pros and cons, of course. But yeah, this is basically the genesis of header bidding. So additional competition, improvement of what's wrong with the waterfall. So you know, just sending the inventory on the levels, which was not optimal, and it was creating a lot of remnant unsold traffic. So basically efficiency, more fairness in the auction, and trying to, you know, push back Google. And Google was, of course, not happy about it, right? Because they were like really scared that header bidding will give them a run for their money.
Yeah, but you know, today, as you think about, you know, even 4 or 5 years ago, when the waterfall was so popular, and when you think today about how strange it was, it's, you know, it seems like so obsolete, you know, so strange. And
yeah, so and this is how it was basically for you guys who were in the industry back then. You know that the first version of header bidding, like the classic header bidding, it required the whole structure on the page, right? And then the simplification happened because everything in AdTech has to be simplified, have to be automated, how to be squeezed to you know, way less, cause less of the disturbance and less work, especially manual work for developers. So this is, by the way, the mechanics of header bidding. As we said, basically other SSPs competing with each other. The winning bid competes with AdX, and the winner wins. But in general, what happened later? So when the publishers didn't want anymore to make all the changes on the level of the site code, then happened the wrapper. And what's so cool about the wrapper? What's the biggest benefit of a wrapper? So basically, it has to make it more efficient for publishers to run the operations, because it makes all the changes happen in what? Not on the head, but into the JavaScript code, which is external, right? So you don't have to, you know, do every bid adjustment. You don't have to change every timeout with the use of your developers and ask them to make a change, save it, deploy it to live version of the page. You can do everything in the external like ecosystem. So it simplified the header bidding management very much, and it allowed especially the publishers who are using a lot of providers in terms of demand like SSPs and everything, to make it in much more time efficient way. And I think a very good summary of what's cool about a wrapper, because everyone is using wrapper now. I almost cannot find a publisher. I spoke with over 50 publishers in the last 2 or 3 months, and I never found one that is still using the classic header bidding. They are all using some kind of wrappers. Either they're in-house wrappers or some kind of market available third-party wrappers, but almost none of them is using like the classic header bidding. So Jay Friedman from Goodweek Group summarized the benefit of a wrapper very, very well in my perspective. That's why the quote and the picture, because he deserves it. So he said that every time publishers made a change to header tag, the ad person, and I understand it as a developer, they had to manually replace the header tags with the new ones. So a lot of work, a lot of waiting, a lot of backlogs. And we worked in the past with a publisher from Turkey, right? And every time we wanted to do some small changes, we waited for about like 3 days, 4 days, because they have to put it into the backlogs, this next sprint, and it was very ineffective, especially the money was left on the table and we have to wait. So with a wrapper, you can now work in the separate interface, do all those changes, and not mess with the actual page, not risk anything, and then everything is okay, you test it, so you deploy it to the full scale. So it's great, right? And I remember also when we as Hilbert, we shifted from creating all those pre-bid engines, sending them to the publishers, asking them to implement it, to creating our own wrapper, right? And now we're sending a little snippet of the code, publisher puts it on the head and leave it there. And if we do something, maybe he has to update the HTXT, but apart of that, we're doing everything on our end, right? So how cool is that?
Yeah, of course. But even then, our early time was we were indeed using the wrapper, because we were wrapping the code of all the implementations were wrapped inside the code. But the difference was that the early wrapper wasn't managed by the user interface we have on our page. So it was step, but not as genius as we are using right now, to have the ability to just send the publisher the simple tag and manage all the things which are behind the tag on our side. This is so simple, comparing to the early times of the like a raw code, which is was still wrapper, but not managed.
Yeah, not so hassle-free, I would say, right? Because the idea is to offload the developers, offload the publishers from doing all kinds of changes. So yeah, I think the wrapper is the coolest thing that happened to header bidding, and without it, the header bidding was really time-consuming. So the simplification is huge here, and there are all kinds of wrappers in the market. We'll talk about that. And here actually you have some kind of illustration how the wrapper is working. So basically the header bidding container contains all the buyers, right? And it's run from the external JavaScript that it's happening outside of the page. And the JavaScript is located on the head, and it's just basically communicating between the bidders and the page. So this is what creates the simplification. So the next thing that started happening, of course, after the header bidding was wrapped and simplified, it was the introduction of server-side header bidding. So like another simplification, maybe not simplification, but for sure another improvement now in terms of like speed and this page latency, which was the issue that publishers had, the biggest scarecrow, keeping them from implementing the header bidding. So client side versus server side. Greg, can you, in the simple words, like for a 12-year-old child or for your grandmother, can you explain the difference between client side and server side?
Complete. The point is that the server side is a simplification in terms of implementation, but it's so complicated, so much difficult to do the stuff right now. But the thing which is happening, imagine that you have all the client side setup, which is doing all the bids, all the requests and response to all those partners, and everything is happening on your browser, on your computer, on your desktop, and you might take all the things which is happening on your computer and put it outside on the server, and just send the one request to the server. Server is doing all the hard work which computer is doing on your client side wrapper, and then get back with a simple response, just the winning bits, not every bits, not every ads, not all the traffic, concurrent HTTP request. Simple as that. And then you have the one simple response which is sent back to GAM to compete with its with everything you got on your server.
Okay, so basically, what you wanted to say is that on the client side, the whole auction between the other SSPs is happening on the browser level, and it has to come from browser to ad server to determine who wins, and that's why the latency happens. And then on the server, it's everything is happening within the ad server, right? Or between two ad servers.
And of course, you know, the all the things which is the computer. If you're doing the auction on your machine, it's fragile. It's based on JavaScript on your computer. It's not that fast, and you don't rely much on this machine. No.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, here again, as we like to illustrate to you guys a bit better how specific things work, so you can see how server side versus client side had everything work. And of course, there are pros and cons, as we said before, for each of them. And actually, sorry, which one to choose for specific publishers? So the client side, what is the biggest pro of the client side solution in your perspective?
It used to be simplicity. It is for sure. Right now, it's simplicity. It was cookies, you know, because you know when you're sending auctions through your computer, every bidder has access to all the cookies they set on your computer. But this has changed. This has changed, and since the third-party cookies are not so popular right now, and will decrease once again in a short time. This is the real game changer. This is the real reason why we will move to the server side, because you know that was the weakness of the server side, that you have to make cookie syncing. This is, you know, right now there will be no cookies at all. Some kind of identity, IDs, things like this. So this advantage of client side is not that strong as used to be. So, but it's still cheaper. It's much cheaper for a publisher. You don't have to pay for the server. The user machine is involved. There are some disadvantages, of course, because of this, but you know, it's still much simpler.
Sure. Yeah. So when I was learning about the differences, for me as well, like the retargeting option for client side, of course, was a huge pro. So if you are like a revenue-driven publisher, for sure it's worth to consider client side, because still, since until Chrome will make a change and blow away the third-party cookies, probably the performance of client side will be a bit better because of the retargeting opportunities, because you know the retargeting campaigns are more expensive, are driving better CPM. But considering all the changes in industry, so like introducing new PRs, which are making it like, you know, level for client side and in general for header bidding, but also introducing this, like, you know, new standards that viewability is new gold, right? And viewability comes with the latency and everything. I see more and more benefits coming into the way of server side. One other benefit for client side that I can mention is that not all the biggest players are offering you the server side integration,
because you know they just, you know, they don't need to right now. So we all remember the time, even before the death of third-party cookies, but before the GDPR. So even before the GDPR, people were saying, "Oh, it's time to, you know, it's time to say goodbye to client side, because you know the server side is, you know,
future.
Is the future. Next year, everything will be server side." Nothing like that has happened so far, but after GDPR, the first big change right now with the third-party cookies, there is, you know, for sure, this the only future.
Sure, yeah, and it looks like, you know, especially if you're a publisher who wants to use server side in form of, like, for example, open bidding, and you know that you cannot have Xander from Open Bidding, right, or something like that. You need to consider, or Adform, you need to consider using the client side as well. So for the simple question of which one to use and which one to choose, you have to assess your priorities, of course, because if you are very much caring about user experience, probably server to server for the sake of the low latency is a better option for you. I know at least 2 or 3 publishers, especially the ones that have most of their money somewhere else than in us, so like classified businesses and stuff. And they have to care about user experience, about churn. They prefer to go full server to server. But if you don't have to do that, I think our safe recommendation is to try to go hybrid, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's the best idea for the start.
Yeah. So try to use some kind of configuration of client side along with the server side. And it can be done in many different ways. So you can, of course, if you have GAN 360 or you are happy enough to got the EBDA in the past, but now Open Bidding, before they limited that only to GAN 360, the best option is to just merge client side with some kind of wrapper, either your own or like someone from market with the Open Bidding. And now also Amazon, right? It's on a real skyrocketing trend. So especially if you are from Western geos or Nordics, Amazon is a way to go. And here you have 2 options, either a simpler one in terms of implementation and management, or a bit more difficult one. We'll go to it later. But in general, yeah, the hybrid model, I think, is the best way to go for a publisher who still doesn't know which one is most optimal for him. Just test, change different setups, and evaluate them in A/B tests and verify which one is working best. And look at not only the revenue from header bidding, but also the impact of the header bidding
on your business. Because there is so many. You have to be careful about your audience. How the audience behave, what's important for them, what's your competition. If you got a lot of competitors with a very fast websites with no delay, probably you have to think about making your own even faster.
Sure.
If it's not the problem, why to spend a lot of money on difficult server-to-server stuff? Just stay with it. So hybrid, will give you the answer.
Yeah, and especially like evaluating the introduction, because as I said, revenue is just one part. Your revenue can grow in the short term even if you put very heavy client-side wrapper on a page. But try look at viewability, because sometimes we had cases of publishers who were coming to us because they introduced some of their own header bidding and viewability dropped by 10% or 15%. Or we had a case of publishers introducing header bidding, and then the number of page views per session were dropping by 20 or 30%, and they were losing money from not entirely the revenue and the efficiency of the revenue related matters, but something else that was impacted by header bidding. So here it has to be taken under consideration. And as we like to share with you different kind of surveys, benchmarks, and stuff like that during our webinars, this is a cool one, and I can wholeheartedly recommend you the whole material, because it's, I think, 80 pages long. It's for free. It's called Ad Monsters Playbook: Evolution of the Header. And they prepared it together with GeoEdge, but this is only the one graph from it. I'll send you the URL for the full report later with the summary of the webinar. Which of these header demand solutions do you employ? And this is a survey from this year, so it's pretty fresh. The user group of publishers was pretty vast, as I recall, and you can see that still 82% of the publishers still employ the client-side header bidding based on Prebid.js. So we can see it's the most popular, but also the Open Bidding, it's on the second stage. Again, you cannot have it now if you don't have GAN 360. GAN 360 is crazy expensive. So you can either work with partner like Gilbert, or you can upgrade to GAN 360, but you have to evaluate if it will be good enough for you or not. But yes, this configuration of a hybridity, so Prebid.js based client-side wrapper, I think I can say either in-house built or some kind of third-party managed kind of service together with Open Bidding is the most popular and is the most effective, and it's like the starting point, right?
Yeah, and of course it depends on the market you are, because not every bidder
Sure, covers.
Covers, open bidding. There's yesterday I just checked because I was thinking, hey, I'm curious how many bidders are in pre-bid, and it's yesterday
300?
like almost 400 right now. Every week, couple more
Sure.
new. So very like severe, different.
And open bidding around 20, something like that.
Much like that.
Yeah, and a fun case, most of the publishers who we talk with or we work with in open bidding, they use around 4 to 6 bidders. But I know some publishers who, as I said, they get rid of all client side and they are just using 12 or 14 open bidding demand partners. But still, the vast majority of the money comes from like 4 or 5, the biggest ones: Rubicon, OpenX, Spotmatic. Things like that.
If you have the audience on the advanced market, probably no problem, but not everyone has.
Sure. And yeah, what's interesting, you can see that the third one is Amazon TAM, and this is important that it's TAM because it's the more pro Amazon. So either they didn't ask about in the survey about UAM, or they just merged it in once, or they were talking with bigger publishers because TAM is harder to get. You have to have your own platforms, contracts and everything. So the TAM and the Amazon in general, this is on the rise. That wasn't popular like 2-3 years ago, and it's getting a lot of traction, especially in US, Canada, UK, and it's coming to Europe on a seriously rapid increase. So think about it, read about it. We have some words about the Amazon later, but I can also send you some cool articles and pointers if you want to consider using Amazon. We also have our own seed, so you can test it from Yieldbert and later, upgrade to your own account if you want. But this is the numbers in terms of what kind of solution publishers globally are using. And now, if you know which kind of approach in terms of like client side, server side, hybrid you want to use, another thing to consider, also important, is to build or to buy header bidding. So to create in-house solution or to get something from the market. If to get something from the market, what kind? Because there are different approaches and we also will differentiate them. So basically, when I'm thinking about even for Yieldbert, I'm doing a lot of stuff connected to Newbiz, and I need, for example, task management software, or I need something to monitor my marketing spend and results and everything. I always evaluate, should I ask our developers, as we have basically a software house inside, to build something for me, like to make it custom and everything, or should I go for the market and pay something, like buy something, pay like 200 euro, 500 euro a month? So it's a tough decision because I want to have something that I can control. I have a full transparency in it, but at the same time, I know I will have to wait for it a long time because the developers have more important stuff. I will then have to adjust it to my needs, add some new things, and it will cost a hell of a lot more to build it at the beginning. And in the end, it can just show that it doesn't give me as much benefit as I thought it will. So usually the safer option for me is to use some solution, verify if it works. If it works, create something similar in-house, or go somewhere else, test something else. So usually when we are talking with publishers or like consulting, advising them on should they get a solution from the market, should they build one in-house, we take 3 aspects under consideration. So we take the cost aspect under consideration. Do they have money to invest in building something? Because the cost of building something, especially short term at the beginning, is much bigger. Do they want to risk that the process of building will not be that simple, will go long, or they will not manage, they will have to hire someone to help them, or they will not use it in the end, as I said it. And the problem, so what kind of problem they want to solve? Is it like a core problem really specified for their business need? So they need some kind of custom because no one on the market have that kind of wrapper. If yes, then of course we advise them to build, but if not, why? Focus on your core business, focus on improving the quality of the inventory, on making the advertisers happier, on creating great content, on getting the publishers to the page, so acquiring the traffic if needed. and leave that for the companies that are specialized in it. Of course, they will take a cut. Just make sure the transparency is the highest possible, that you keep the control, but we usually advise them to try something on the market. Not many of the publishers we know uses some kind of custom approach. They usually go for someone on the market. Sometimes it's Yieldbird, sometimes it's Rubicon, sometimes it's someone else. But yeah, pros and cons as usual, Greg. For the in-house, you as a head of technology, when you want to get some tool or ask your people to build something, what kind of pros and cons you see for the in-housing of some technology?
On the publisher side?
On the publisher side, yeah, if you were a publisher, but also you're a head of tech, right?
Yeah.
So we are building in Yieldbird some of the tools for us. But we are also buying some of the tools from the market. We are using Jira, we're using other solutions. We could build them, right?
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you were saying, I was thinking, you know, if you have a business, you know, what's the point to build CRM, for example, for yourself?
Yes,
it's plenty of them on the market. You don't want to resell it. You don't want to specialize with it. So why not to use something which is working right now? If you are a publisher and this is or a network, and this is the core of your business, you know, paying someone else, maybe it's not that good idea. But on the other hand, of course, if you have a lot of developers who, you know, you don't have
other things,
anything to give them, you know, just read some papers and write some code. It's simple, but you know, it never happens. Things like this, you know, it's not that simple.
Yeah. So I also gave it some thinking, gave it some digging, and for the
of course, the other thing, if you're starting, you don't know your needs because you have no experience. What's your needs? If you start to work with someone else, you know, you could end up with an idea, you know, this is okay, this is not okay, I need something more, but at the very beginning, you don't know what you need.
Yeah, so as I said, you should test something that you can get from the market, and then if you like it, you stick with it. If don't, you can build something better. But
or make the partner to make it for you.
Sure, if it's
not possible.
If it's not very like unique need, right? Because
if you are obsessed with your own tools, you know, it's a long way before you, but you know, still have some experience.
Sure. Yeah. So in general, guys, pros and cons that you can see being discussed over the network of like, you know, from the publishing business. For the in-house, usually it's a matter of customization. It's much easier to customize something you have built in-house than convince, for example, Rubicon to give you some kind of feature that only you as a publisher need, especially if you're a small player. More control, so of course you're controlling everything. You can make sure that, you know, someone else will not shit the bed, sorry for my French, and cost you some money. You know what kind of things are happening with specific bidders, how they are implemented, if there are good settings in it and everything, if the numbers that you're seeing are right, because there is also bigger transparency. And the efficiency is a little better because you can come up with things that the other publishers using market available solutions don't have. So you can get a competitive advantage against them. And of course, the integration can be easier because if you have other tools that you built in-house, you can build also the header bidding in a way to integrate it a little bit easier into your ecosystem. But on the other hand, you know, flip side, upfront costs are much higher and time to build it, it's much longer. So, you know, if it's like time sensitive, you have to consider what are your needs. So you have to do the homework, analyze what you need, what's important, what's available in the market, what is working well for your vertical, and so on. So those are the downsides. And on the second end, you have a third party, which of course initial costs are much smaller because you're paying rather a monthly fee for a use of header bidding, or you're paying a revenue share sometimes. Depends if you're using your own SSPs in it or SSPs from the company that provides you the header bidding, because it can be a package or it can be just a wrapper or like a kind of framework. Implementation, usually it's quicker because you have some people from the side of the provider helping you to do it quick, resolving some of your issues. for example, creating the line item structure for your GAM. Instead, you or your adults creating it, so also efficient. And ongoing maintenance and upgrades. So for us, of course, when we offer header bidding to publisher, we are upgrading the preview to the newest version. We are making sure the CMP is passing all the
always to be up to date. If you think that we build it inside because this is investment. If you think about investment, you have to know that it's not that you will build it and forget. No, it's every week you have to be up to date with all the changes, all the SSPs, all the adapters, all the CMPs, all the GDPR stuff, cookie stuff,
GCF 2.0 identifiers, everything. So
it might be
the maintenance. The maintenance actually is one of the reasons that this long-term cost as a con for a third-party solution is not that kind of con, because you don't just build it and use it in-house. You also have to upgrade it
every time.
You also have to adjust it to the market changes. So it's I wouldn't say that long-term cost actually is a strong con of the third party, but it's a relevant con. Also, as I said, limited customization on the on the side of third party, although there are some players on the market that are open for that. For example, cool feature, we have a tool called QuickWrap. It's a wrapper that we built, and it's like a self-serve wrapper. So we are giving publishers a framework to work with, and they can put all of their demand platforms in it. They have analytics, everything needed, changes of timeouts and bid adjustments. Plus, they have something where they can put their ideas, what they need, what they want to have, and they can make other users of a QuickWrap vote what's cool, what's most important, what's most useful, and then we, as a Yieldberg, we put it higher into the product roadmap and we develop it to you. So not all the third-party solutions have limited customization, because some of the players, not us only, but some of the players on the market are willing to customize it to your needs, especially if there are many clients, potential clients who will also use it, appreciate it, right? So think about less control. Of course, you will have some amount of the smaller control, but now there are two magic words in the industry: transparency and control. So all the tech providers are trying to give you as much control, as much transparency as possible. Example of the QuickWrap, again, we are trying to give all the control, a part of control over the backend, right? The mechanics of header bidding. So all the control over timeouts, bid adjustments, what SSPs are implemented. If it's a publisher or our SSPs, it's all controlled by a publisher, along with the detailed analytics, bid rates, win rates, everything. So again, downside for some solutions, but not for any. And compatibility limitations, of course, some of the solutions will not be compatible. For example, our QuickWrap for now works only with Google Ad Manager. So if you're using Xander as a mainnet server or Adfor, no go. But again, who knows? In a year or two, we can improve it. Other players also have some limitations. For example, they don't work with like 2 header biddings on a page, or they cannot work with ANP or something like that. But usually it's resolvable. Usually it's a matter of time when those limitations can be lifted. But yeah, there are some limitations, of course, with third parties. So pros and cons. As the time is rushing us, and I know that you're waiting for the tips and tricks, Open Bidding and Amazon come and UAM really quickly. So when header bidding happened, Google felt pressurized, felt that other SSPs and publishers, they are taking some money out of them, and Google don't like that. So they came up with their own idea, a kind of header bidding built within the structure of the ad server, so within GAM. And it's a cool tool, I would say, because
it is.
It's not that hard to set up. You get paid from Google, so you don't have to chase all the AppNexuses. Cannot chase AppNexus because it's not on Open Bidding, but all those Rubicons, OpenAccess, everything else, you're not chasing them for the money. And it's server side, so it doesn't create delay.
It's like real server side without any previous wait or any previous calls.
Yeah, and it's there are of course pros and cons. Easy implementation. You have to open the accounts for Open Bidding, even if you have the client-side accounts with the bidders. You cannot block specific advertisers from GAM level. You have to block them for a specific site, going to the SSPs and asking them, hey, block Samsung per block, Durex on my site, right?
You have to trust.
Yeah, limitations. But then again, it doesn't limit the page speed, right? So it doesn't slow your page, and it's growing in terms of the relevance for publishers, because for most of the publishers, even in Central and Eastern Europe, open bidding already stands for like 15% easily. And in the US, we know publishers who makes either like 35% from open bidding, because there are more relevant demand channels that they can put into the open bidding. So pros and cons. Coming back to the biggest con, only for GAM 360. So if you don't have it, you cannot have the open bidding. And having GAM 360, huge investment, huge decision, long-term decision. So we usually, what we do, especially for the big publishers, we ask them to put some traffic on our GAM with open bidding. We show them what open bidding can make for them, and then they can recalculate the costs versus possible income, and they can upgrade to 360 and use it. Or if they are not control freaks, they can put some of the traffic for our ad manager and work with us, and we can opt to monetize it with open bidding. But yeah, cool tool. Of course, Google takes a cut from the advertisers' dollars that are spent through open bidding.
Yeah, definitely, and you don't really know how many. So sometimes deducted,
Sure.
compromised impressions.
Yeah, of course, you have to trust, but also you have to verify, right? So the infamous PwC report with Isba Shear showing the 15% of unknown delta, right?
And there is no standard.
Yeah, it's not said it was from open bidding, of course, but what we do, we of course sometimes try to purchase some traffic on our publisher sites and see how much money that we purchase through header bidding, specific SSPs, or even open bidding comes to the publisher. Yeah, so we spend $100. Do they get this 90 or 80% they should get, or they get less? So again, check it, try it. Yeah, but still, open bidding for the server side implementation, my favorite choice. If you haven't tested it yet, do it and try different bidders. Check what the bidders are added month after month, because they are new companies coming with a relevant kind of.
Yeah, and there is no way, there is no problem to combine it with Privit.
Yes, exactly.
No problem if it's client side or server side, client side, server side, plus open bidding. No problem.
Yeah, and Amazon, as I said, Amazon is giving the Google again run for their money. Amazon is competing with Facebook for number 2 in terms of like ad revenue provider for publishers. They created 2 solutions in terms of like the server-side header bidding. One is called TAM, Transparent Ad Marketplace. It's one for bigger publishers, like enterprise-level publishers. No, not everyone can get there. This is a solution where they request from you to have your own accounts, to add those accounts, manage them, and you're paid by SSPs. They charge you a small fee per CPM, so per each impression that you run through TAM. But you also have a UAM, very popular among small and medium publishers. You're getting a wrapper from Amazon. They are choosing the demand. Of course, the demand is in part similar to the one on client side or on open bidding, but there is also a part of Amazon own demand, because they also are running their own ads through it. For some geos it's huge, for some geos it's smaller, but it's relevant. And on some publishers it's creating around 5 to 10% incremental revenue. You have this specific comparison here. So again, considering how Amazon is growing, and this is a fresh graph from eMarketer from October 2020, so you can see how Amazon grew from last year to this year. Maybe not something crazy big, but still 40%, which is now expected. It's impressive for the pandemic time, but it's supposed to grow to like 2.5 amount of what they did in 2019 within 2 next years. And it's already increasing, because in March they were forecasted to grow to 21. Now they are forecasted to grow to 25. And I think it will even go higher, because they have also first-party data that they can use to mitigate the loss of cookies. And Google and Facebook are getting a little bit of bad press, or even a lot of bad press, due to those, lawsuits in the US and everything. So the advertisers are going to Amazon to spend money and see maybe they can get better ROI, and publishers are willing to test it because it's really easy to implement, especially UAM. And as open bidding, UAM also can work along usual pre-bid, right?
Besides on the yeah, it is
next to it, right? So you can use
TAM
and
you can integrate it.
Yeah. So guys,
it's not out of the box, but it's possible.
And yeah, of course. And if you can mention like one biggest difference between open bidding and Amazon solutions for you as a tech person, what's the biggest difference?
Of course,
which one you would choose if you can choose one?
If I could choose open bidding or Amazon,
yeah,
I would definitely choose Amazon, because there's plenty of other demand.
And you don't have to have 360 GAN, right? So you're not paying additional fee. So yeah,
I believe it's simpler. I believe it's simpler, even if you have to integrate it on your JavaScript code on the page. It's something you are not dependent on only one source.
Right. Yeah.
But of course, the open bidding is more elegant, because just one partner, one connection, one request, one response.
Sure.
Might be okay.
Yeah. If you have GAN 360, it's a no-brainer. Open bidding should be there, and Amazon can be next to it. Either it will give you incremental revenue or not. If you don't have GAN 360, Amazon, in our perspective, is a better choice. Easy to test, especially the UAM. Check what you can get with it. If you don't know how to implement it, ask us on the hello@yieldbird.com. We'll send you some implementation guides and pointers. To summarize it, why digital advertising is the battleground between Google and Amazon. You can see it here, source of a WebFX. Amazon year-over-year ad revenue growth 170%. Google.
That's the reason of my choice.
Yeah, Google a bit smaller. Of course, Google has a bigger base to go from. Yeah, Amazon has a shorter perspective. But here, annual ad revenue 17 billion to 10 billion, and look at that. Yeah, 17 for Google, forecasted 24 for Amazon soon, because they are talking about this 10 billion from 2019, and they are forecasting Amazon to grow to 24 in 2 years. I would like to see the forecast plans for Google. I think they're not that impressive, but maybe, because if they are growing 17% year by year, it will be something like 20, 21. So they should be about even.
Might be. But of course, if you are already big, it's difficult for you to get bigger.
Okay, guys, until the full hour, we will not probably finish at full hour. We have just 5 minutes. We're going to tips and tricks. So we talked about many different options, pros and cons of each approach. So now 10 tips and tricks for header bidding optimization. Probably you know some of them. Probably some of them can be obvious. Again, we're also addressing here the people who are basic, who have just 5 bidders and not do anything with them. So we will go from the least advanced and from some of the obvious stuff to the more advanced kind of pointers. Here is the list. I will not read through it now. I'll just go one after one. So assess your demand partners. What to do with that, right? Because in the past, publishers were just putting more and more. Let's put 8, let's put 12 SSPs into the header bidding, and let's just leave them there. More bidders, more demand, bigger fill rate, everything like that. Now it's a little bit different. I heard a story about Chegg, big educational publisher from US, doing some housekeeping, removing a lot of bidders this year, and they removed like 6 or 8 bidders, and they lost like 2% incremental revenue. So, Greg, what's important about assessing your demand partners? What will you check month after month, quarter after quarter, in terms of performance of specific bidders? Incremental revenue, of course, but what else?
Yeah, of course, the page speed, and this is it's
so the impact of specific.
The impact of there's too many bidders. You're gaining with the effect of a narrow door. when 12 people would like to go to the door, only 3 have a chance. But maybe not that important for you. So like a weaker partner is taking place for someone which will gain you more revenue. So,
but also you have some who are displaying you those bad quality ads, right? We had a lot of issues with Pubmatic lately on mobile, running retargeting iPhone ads and stuff like that. So you have to assess also that. And usually the optimal amount of bidders is like, I think this is what I know from discovery and conversations with publishers, 6 to 8 bidders, right, for the client. It's like
there is something like that, but it doesn't mean that you have to. You don't need to start with 15, if it's possible, and choose which 6 or which 8 from those 20 is the best for you.
Sure.
Because it might differ, it might change.
Yeah, and also in terms of assessing your demand partners, if you have relations with them as a publisher directly, because you can have relations with them through some kind of company like Yieldbird, you either talk with SSPs directly or talk with your ad network, us or whatever, Monetize More, whoever, and make sure they are talking with those SSPs and using all their new products, because quarter after quarter, year after year, they are releasing some new cool features, new cool formats that you can put on top and improve your performance from this specific bidder, right? So it's important to not just put it there and leave it there, but also remove the ones that are not giving you anything incremental, testing their new solutions and adding new cool features. Bringing demand in-house. So this is something we were covering a bit before. You can either build everything in-house or you can outsource everything and don't touch it, just take the money. But there is a middle way. You can use a tech from a third party, but you can have your own relations with the SSPs. Because we saw it, right? 2 Xandr accounts on the same publisher. One is ours, one is publishers. Sometimes our works better and our CPMs are better. Sometimes publisher CPMs are better. You never know. Also, when you're getting reports, aggregated reports from partners like Yieldbird, you have to trust the partner that the numbers you see there are right. Usually, partners like GCPP, they are verified by Google, they are audited and everything, so the trust level should be high enough. But to have full transparency and not rely on just one company, but to get money from 10 different companies, smaller pieces, many legs, it's better to open your own accounts and migrate them into the house. So if you have your own AdX or AdSense, why not to have your own SSPs and put them into the technology, either your own that you build in-house or some technology you're getting from external source. Again, example of a quick wrap. We give a framework and it's a publisher decision. If they want to put their own SSPs there, fine by us. We can even help you negotiate preferable terms. You have the analytics there. You see everything. The money goes from SSPs to you. We cannot hide anything. You control everything. Bring your demand in-house. This is a trend now. Both on the advertiser side, brands are putting the programmatic teams, buying teams in-house. Same with publishers. They are doing it also. And think about transparency. I know it's a bit of hassle, especially at the beginning, to negotiate the contracts, set up everything, but it's worth it because you're safer, you have more control and everything. Next thing, optimal timeouts. Greg, timeouts is also a big thing. This is a screen from Header Bidder Expert, cool add-on from Chrome, showing in what timeout specific bidders of this specific blurred publisher return their bids, right? What's important what's important in terms of adjusting the timeouts for the specific bidders?
What you see on this screen means that you have 7 bidders, and if you are focused on allowing every bidder to finish up with the response, you would probably set the timeout on 800. But it seems here that on your computer, on your machine, it's pointless to wait for this one late one, but you have to. There is the better way to set it shorter and cut the late one off and just send the bids to DFP to GAM earlier, because if you are waiting too long, there is a chance that the user will scroll down the page, and the top format, for example, wouldn't manage to show up.
So yeah, it will not be rendered, you will not get paid, stuff like that. But also, if DFP is cutting some of the bidders too soon and they will not be able to respond in time, like this blurred one, right?
Yeah,
I'm guessing it's OpenX, but it's just my guess. So here, it means that OpenX wouldn't be taken under consideration, right? And if he has crazy high bid, he just missed the auction. And
if you set the timeout to 200, you will cut most of them. And of course, you have to remember that this picture it's on your computer. It doesn't mean on the other computers, on the website, on the mobiles, it's the same. So it may differ.
So yeah, remember about with timeouts, test different timeouts, check how they impact the bid rates and the win rates of specific bidders.
And find something in the middle.
Yeah. The next thing is shuffling the order of bidders. So if you're putting them, and in general, the idea is that they are called at the same time. They should respond with their the times that we saw here in theory. So the order, sorry, shouldn't be that important. But we know from our test it is important, especially if you have a big amount of bidders, right?
Yeah, especially the problem of narrow door, as I said. Only 5 will manage. So if you have the same order, there is a slight chance that the best of them will never finish up with a good bid.
And how, because shuffle the order of bidders, it's like simple saying, but how actually the publisher or the others can shuffle the order?
This option is default in Prebid. So if you are using Prebid, the shuffle is.
So you just have to enable it, and every time
it is default. So right now, when we started it, we have to shuffle the bidders manually with our own code. But right now, it's inside Prebid and it's turned on by default. You could turn it off, but yeah.
Okay, cool. Bid adjustment, guys. So I don't know if you know the Reddit Adobe group, 25,000 of professionals working in the same industry as us. I love it. I write there every day, ask some questions, get some help from different kind of professionals, but also try to help other publishers. And they talk a lot about discrepancies in different kind of things, but a lot of discrepancies come between SSP level and DFP level, so or at manager level, still like whole thinking. So you see $10 on Index or Rubicon, and you see on GAN 12 or 15, and you're wondering why. So you have to get into the bottom of things, and you have to level those numbers, because otherwise you're again losing money, because DFP thinks that some of those bidders are bidding more than they are actually paying, and they are not giving the impression and taking the money from actually the highest bidder.
Yeah, and you have to know that you have to be aware that your DFP, your ad server, is deciding who's winning.
Who's winning, right?
Yeah. This is very important.
And the ad server is not paying you the money. It shows the SSPs are paying you the money. So you have to make sure, if you see that Index is paying you $75 and DFP is showing you $100 from Index, you have to do this bid adjustment. It's like 115, right? No, 125. Which is it's showing that the bid from Index should be taken under consideration, like 70% of what's shown in the
maybe they're exposing the gross.
And there are many reasons behind that, because some of the platforms are bidding net or gross. There's a difference, and there's the source of those discrepancies. But also there are platforms who are paying only for visible impressions or rendered impressions. That's why there are differences between DFP and SSPs. So take a look, compare those two numbers, and do the adjustment from the header bidding level. Again, there are tools like our Quick Wrap, which can give you a chance to do the bid adjustment simply in the dashboard, but you can also do it in the pre-bid code next to each bidder in the engine. So yeah, I'll send you also the URL for this specific topic because it's really interesting. It tells about specific bidders that the people had problems with and the discrepancies. Some like AppNexus showed only 4% discrepancy. Some like Index for some publishers showed up to 25. So you have to be careful. You have to take a look at it. We also know publishers who are looking at header bidding solutions and asking for header bidding solutions which provide an option to monitor those discrepancies within header bidding. We're working on it. We don't have it yet developed, but it's really important. It can give you additional like 10 to 15% of revenue if you're not monitoring and adjusting it properly yet. Optimize your prices, pretty basic thing, especially after UPR introduction is a bit less relevant because when you're setting UPRs, it covers all now. Yeah, it covers your header bidding, either client side or open bidding. It covers all, so the prices apply. But still, you have a lot of SSPs who tells us, guys, duplicate those prices that you put in the UPRs also to the SSP, because if we're winning or losing, especially losing a lot of impressions, we want to know why. If it's because we're bidding too low or what's going on. Because if you're having UPR and you're not having price with an SSP, they can submitting the bids, not winning, and not knowing why they are losing. They cost for ad serving will grow like crazy, and they will just mitigate you or ask you to terminate the account or something. So don't risk it. Some of the SSPs say it's enough for them if they are formed by UPRs, and they even prefer it, they perform better than, but some doesn't. So ask your platforms or ask your providers of header bidding if they are flooring specific important SSPs that actually prefers to be floored on the SSP level, because this can give you advantage, better perception from the SSP side or DSP side, and better performance. Advanced analytics, Greg, you like all those analytical kind of dashboards, all those numbers and all those graphs. So if you can say to our listeners, our viewers today, why they should dig deep and granularly into the performance of specific bidders, and on what kind of metrics they should look a part of revenue and CPM.
Yeah, like for example, the timeout we were talking about a couple of slides before, it's a good reason, because it is a good example, because what you saw there, it's your point of view, and this type of analytics gives you an answer what's your audience thinks about it, because maybe you got very slow or very fast computer, and if you are adjusting everything for you, you may end up with an idea that for me it's working, okay, but it's only you.
Sure.
It's like yeah. Or for me it's not working, but you are the only one. Check, maybe you have a ad block. Oh, okay, I had ad block. So this advanced analytics helps you to choose the better timeouts, to choose better bidders on different geos, because you might have the impression that this 6 bidders is best for you, but it might be true only for the US market, but on the Canada you may choose different ones, because on the Canadian market definitely different sets of bidders might fit your revenue. So you will looking at the average is not always the best idea.
Yeah, and judging by, I'm getting only $100 from Pamatic every month, I'll just get rid of it, and without checking what's their bid rate and win rate, and going deep into why. Yeah,
maybe you just set the floor prices on the platform accidentally, or you forgot about it, and that's the reason. So this is the best way for troubleshoot on the bidders.
Sure. Yeah. So before you make decision to cut something or to even implement a new one, make sure to analyze it really granular. And again, bid rates, win rates, timeouts, everything like that. Advanced analytics is important because educated decisions in our industry are a must. This is a screenshot from our analytical data. So also, if you want to give it a test run, even for free, let us know. We'll hook you up. You'll see what kind of insights you can get from your inventory. Multi-size formats and size mapping, of course, kind of obvious recommendation. Not many publishers now are using single formats because it limits your potential. Some geos have like, you know, geo-related specific sizes. Some campaigns or some advertisers are just using like 2 or 3 formats. So if you have option and your UX and the ad structure, like site structure, allows it, use multi-formats and size mapping to allow different kind of placements in terms of a size like 300 by 250 or 336 by 280 to be displayed, or like here desktop, right, 300 by 600 or 160 by 600. It all can increase your fill rate, it can increase your RCPM and the overall revenue. It will not destroy your UX rather, but you know, even if you have it in GAN, you also have to have it in SSPs.
Right? Yeah, because you know every SSP, like not every, but you know a lot of SSPs has their own, you know, sets of available formats. Sure. It's not the list is not the same, and also you know even if they have the same formats, you know different SSPs sometimes they are specialized with some special format which is sure. Not popular in other SSPs. So you know on one, you know 1.2 for 1.6, you know sure. is okay. On the different it's not.
Yeah, and also considering that Google is not that great with rich media, you know, try and leverage some of your SSPs with rich media, like AdForm, for example, yeah. Right? Yeah. It's really cool to use that kind of opportunities, and they're just wasting if you don't try. Hybrid approach, we talked about it already, right? Those are quite old numbers from 2018, but you can see already here that the trend for the hybrid approach is growing, trend for client side is dropping. And yeah, don't go either with server side or client side without testing the hybrid. Yeah. And in different configurations. So test the hybrid approach, start small, start client side with open bidding, start with like 3 or 4 bidders, expand, exchange, you know, different bidders for mobile and desktop. It all matters. Different bidders for different geos. It also matters if you have sites that are like, you know, other countries as main source of traffic. Go ahead and test. If you cannot test it by your own because you don't have time for it, maybe sometimes it's really better to outsource it and earn more even after a revenue share cut than just, you know, for the sake of principle, keep everything under your roof, even if you don't have time to manage it properly, granularly enough by yourself, and test all kinds of different implementations. And last,
and of course, don't take the important thing. Don't take like experience of others as granted, because you know it might, but it may not work for you as well.
Sure. Sure.
Have to check.
And the last but also very important thing, the identity enhancement. This year would be the death of cookie year, if not for pandemic. It's COVID year, of course, but otherwise, Google announced the death of cookie for Chrome in 2022. January, February, everything in internet was buzzing about it. And Prebid also reacted even before, even after some ITP and MTP releases, so Safari, Mozilla. And you have a lot of user identification options from different kind of providers, ID5, LiveRamp, Tradisk, which is on the rise now, and everything else like Digitrust, NetID and stuff that you can implement through Prebid and use it to fill the gap with the data and to give your retargeters or even not retargeters but direct buyers a chance to recognize their users and get to them, get better ROI. It means higher CPMs and it means better ROI and more like satisfaction from a buyer, so more money spent on your inventory. And Prebid has this module, user ID module, where you can implement not one but several of those and
as much as you can.
As much as you can, because you don't know which one will be best.
There is no leading one. No.
Yeah, so you can see the biggest ones on the right hand side, but you know the difference is the leading one, Tradisk 16.2, it's no longer valid because they grew a little, but it's still not like 50% or 70%. So there is no leading one. Of course, NetID only relevant for Germany, right?
Focus only on one, it's not a good idea.
Yeah,
and even if it's not, you know, working right now as expected, it will. because it will grow.
Yeah, just need the time. So guys, implement your IDs. There are a lot of resources how to do it in the internet. We can also share some links for our blog where we help publishers to implement that and evaluate how it works. But again, straight away today you can implement those and earn more money from Mozilla and Safari. Daily Mail is bragging about even getting back 30% more from those impressions. But soon enough, Google will start limiting their cookies as well, testing some of the privacy sandbox solutions. You want to have also pre-bid based solution in place. So use and test the identity enhancement opportunities. And this is it. Unfortunately, we blabbed way too long. Sorry for that. So we don't have to answer your questions. I will answer them together with Greg with a summary that you'll get tomorrow for your email. And the quick recap, once again, very quick because we took too much of your time already. It's safe to say that header bidding still is a hot topic. There are plenty of new things, new features, new needs for adjustments coming, new versions of pre-bid engine and so on. So you have to stay on top of the trend. You have to make a decision which approach is better for your client side or server side. You have to test different solutions. If you can test open bidding, if you can't, test Amazon, but don't stick to one option. Don't put all your eggs into one basket. So try to in-house at least some of the highest paying SSPs, and don't stick to the principle of in-housing everything, right? Sometimes try to keep as much transparency and control as you can, but also use some of the solutions on the market because they are good, they are working, they don't need so much involvement of your team, which can prioritize other things like identity, for example, and try to get the better option for you. Test. Every webinar, I'm saying the same thing. Test a lot of things because you need to know which one is best for you. You cannot just guess. So this is it, and track the changes and new releases in the industry. This one graph about Amazon growing to $24 billion in 2022. I found it yesterday on the Marketer. I put it on my LinkedIn. So if you want to get that kind of updates, sign to our newsletter. You have it on the resources subpage on our site. You will get them weekly to your mailbox. But go along with the changes in the industry because you cannot afford to stay back, because if your competition will not stay back, you will be losing. You will be minimized and mitigated in the advertisers' budgets, and you don't want that along with all the other limitations on the market like COVID, lack of cookies, GDPR, and everything else. So this is our general advice. Any other questions? hello@yolberg.com. Thank you for the time that you've spent with us. We hope that we didn't bore you to death and it wasn't too basic. We really hope that, but we can accept all kinds of feedback. Greg Kublakiewicz and Szymon Pluszyński, thank you so much and see you on our next webinar.